Hello. We're going to continue with topic 21, abuse and relationships. We start with our beginning ritual. To begin work on this topic, write 4 good things that happened to you in the last 2 days. This step is very important, along with the ending ritual, to make sure that the topic is contained and that you're treating yourself with the most kindness. From the time you were old enough to appreciate being a woman, you probably dreamed of being in a healthy relationship. The fantasy of the beautiful bride in her long white gown and veil leaving the church with her handsome groom and going on to live happily ever after. In a vine-covered cottage is a dream experienced by countless young girls. However, as you grow and learn, you realize that this vision is only a fantasy, that life has its ups and downs, and there is no happily ever after. You may have had, or now have, a long-term relationship, or some shorter relationships that are rich and fulfilling. Or you may live a good life by yourself. Oh, Lordy. My hair is blurry. Alright, this is going to be it. Okay. On the flip side, your life story may be even further removed from that fantasy. You may find yourself in an abusive and unfulfilling relationship that has gone on for many years. Or perhaps you've had a series of shorter, unhealthy relationships. As each relationship ends, your hopes may remain high that the next relationship will be better. List words and phrases that you would use to describe a healthy relationship. Words you might use could include equal, fair, honest, and trusting. It's got a place for you to list the things that you would consider. What did it say? Let's get those words right. List the words and phrases that you would use to describe a healthy relationship. And I think that those words will be different for everybody. I mean, yes, we all want honesty, trust, and fair and equal, yes. But that means to different degrees to different people. Okay, the next part. Recognizing abuse in relationships. Because of your history, you may have Because of your history, you may have a hard time recognizing abuse in a relationship. You may feel or know that something is really wrong in the relationship, yet try to justify it. You may say things to yourself such as, "He didn't really mean it that way. She was exhausted. Well, if I don't do this again, I'm sure it won't happen again." Or maybe it's absolutely clear to you that this is an abusive relationship, but you feel stuck in it. You can't see your way out. The following words will help you understand what an abusive relationship is. And then we're going to go through a list of them here. It looks like we've got domination, aggression, intimidation, and manipulation. So we're going to have kind of the definition, and then you're going to get to write or think or process. Manipulation. Someone using deception or other devious means to get you to do things you don't want to do or that are destructive. What does the word manipulation mean to you? Describe circumstances in current or past relationships where you have been manipulated, and explain how it made you feel. I think one of the harder things about manipulation, again, this is a personal crystal thought, is that the idea behind it is that you never really knew what they were doing. So manipulation is like the one that you never really get all the proof on, or you never get, it's not a fact-based thing. Someone intentionally messed with the facts. So that one seems very, it says manipulation, someone using deceptive or other devious means to get you to do things you don't want to do or that are destructive. Okay, on to the next one. Intimidation. Someone frightening, scaring, coercing, or terrorizing you to get you to do what they want you to do or be the way they want you to be. What does the word intimidation mean to you? Describe circumstances in current or past relationships where you have been intimidated and explain how it made you feel. This paperwork is targeted towards women, but I know that everybody has an opportunity to feel intimidated and intimidation from someone. Okay, the next one is aggression. Someone attacking you or using force against you. What does the word aggression mean to you? Describe circumstances in current or past relationships where aggressive behavior has been used against you and explain how it made you feel. I want to include in this one, again, this is Crystal's notes, not what this paper says, which is with the aggression and aggressive behavior is also it includes the stuff that's you think is not their fault. Like, well, he, this, that, or the other thing. Well, like he only went to 3rd grade, or like she had a car accident, or there's those all count. Someone using aggression and having it as a personal skill, it matters that you believe that they can't help themselves. And I didn't know that, so that was something that I learned in the process, was that when aggression, someone attacking you or using force against you. What does aggression mean to you? Describe circumstances in current or past relationships where aggressive behavior has been used against you and explain how it made you feel. One more side note, and again, this is Crystal's personal opinion, is I think this is, for me, this included siblings, because I have a lot of brothers. So there was a lot of fighting with me for different reasons at different times. So when you grow up with a lot of siblings, that's some stuff you're just like, well, that's just what it's like. But I'm saying it all counts. Like, okay, on to the next one. Enough with Crystal. Domination. Someone else using what they perceive as their power to control you and your life. In such situations, the other person's needs are always more important than yours. What does the word domination mean to you? Describe circumstances in current or past relationships where you have been dominated, and explain how it made you feel. Now, this next part is 3 stories, and then we're going to see if any of these seem familiar to you. I want to mention again that if any of these topics or questions are upsetting, please push pause and reach out for help. I'm only sharing the information that made a difference for me, hoping that maybe some of it will make a difference for y'all. Thank you for being with me. Okay, here's our stories. Linda has been married to Joe for 25 years. Every morning, Joe has uncontrollable rage, in which he rants and yells, telling Linda and their 2 adolescent sons everything they have ever done wrong. He threatens them with taking away their privileges and forcing them to do things that they do not want to do. Sometimes he hits them. At work and in the evening, however, he is warm and friendly. Kate has been living in a committed long-term relationship with June for 10 years. June lost her job several years ago, and Kate continues to work full-time to support both of them. June spends all day at home, watching television. She refuses to do any housework or help with meal preparation. In addition, she will not turn off the television when Kate asks her to, and frequently changes the channel when Kate is watching a program she's enjoying. And the final story. Teresa has lived with Frank for 7 years. They have 3 small children. Teresa likes the house to be neat, but is not terribly fussy about it. Frank doesn't care what the house looks like and piles books, magazines, and electronic equipment everywhere. Occasionally, Teresa likes to have several friends come in for lunch. Before they come, she spends several days cleaning the living room and dining room. Frank resents this and thwarts her efforts by piling his things in the places she has just cleaned. Teresa feels so discouraged by this, she has decided it isn't worth it to have her friends come in because she is too embarrassed. Are there aspects in any of these stories that seem familiar to you? If so, what are they? What other stories of abuse have you seen or experienced? All right, that's a place to write that down. And now we go into the next one. From Healing the Trauma of Abuse. Margaret is 60 years old. As a child, she had been abused and neglected by several family members. In her early 20s, Margaret married a man with whom she spent the next 20 years of her life. He was generally regarded by others as an outstanding member of the community. While he was not outwardly abusive, he found subtle ways to constantly remind Margaret that she was incompetent and not as good as other women with whom he was in regular contact. She left this marriage for a man who bought her nice things and took her out to dinner. Compared to her former marriage, this new situation seemed like heaven. By the time Margaret realized that this man was alcoholic and very abusive, she had married him, and they had purchased a home together. It took 5 years for her to get up the courage to literally hide from this man and begin a new life. When Margaret was in these relationships, she felt there was some truth in what these men were telling her about herself, that if she could figure out how to be the way they wanted her to be, the abuse would stop. Even though she had a good job, she felt convinced she couldn't make it on her own. Now, after many years of counseling, she is in a relationship based on equality, where she feels valued and supported. Why do some women seem to turn from one abusive partner to the next? And looking back, women who have been in one or more abusive relationships give the following reasons for being in those relationships. And there's some bullet points here. I didn't see what was happening to me as abuse. It was the way I had always been treated. I never knew what a healthy relationship should look like. I was sucked in by good treatment early in the relationship, and by the time I realized it was abusive, we were married and I was pregnant. I never felt I deserved anything better. I had really low self-esteem and didn't think anyone else would want me. I didn't think there were any other options. If you have been in one or several abusive relationships, why do you think that is? And there's a place to write that down. The next question. Perhaps you have had the frustration of seeing a friend or a relative get repeatedly involved in abusive relationships. Why do you think your friend did this? And the next part is staying or leaving. If you are in an unhealthy relationship, do you need to leave? The answer to this question is very personal, and only you can provide the answer. Of course, if your life or the lives of others are in danger, you may need to leave at once. Possible preparations for such a move are described in the next section. If you choose to stay, there are some things you can do to improve the situation. For example, you could talk to your partner openly about the changes you'd like to see in their relationship, or you could ask your partner to see a therapist with you. If you decide to talk to your partner about changing his or her behavior, write down the reasons that this seems like a good idea to you, as well as the reasons that this might not be a good idea. There's a space there to write it out. If you decide to ask your partner to see a therapist with you, write down the reasons that this seems like a good idea to you, as well as the reasons that this might not be a good idea. Okay, the next question. Would you like to change the way that you respond to the abuse? Yes or no? And then a place provided to write down, to change the way I respond, I would. The next place to write, this seems like a good idea because. And the next, this is not a good idea because. And then last, describe other good ways you can use to improve your relationship. All right. Got a little bit left here. I may have to make this one into two. Leaving an abusive relationship. While you may understand that you deserve to be treated well and know that you are being abused, leaving an abusive relationship is not easy. Check off the reasons you have stayed in abusive relationships. Here's our checklist. Threats to yourself or other family members or pets. A sense of commitment to the relationship. A belief that things will get better. Religious beliefs. Children. Pets. Financial security. Personal insecurity, such as feeling you can't take care of yourself, and feeling no one else would ever want you. Liking your home and being unable to get the abuser to leave. What are the factors keeping you or that have kept you in an abusive relationship? And there's a place to write that out. Only you will know when it is the right time and when you are ready to leave a relationship. Others in your life may want you to do it right away and may not understand your hesitation. Remind them that you are in charge of your life and you need to make these decisions based on what feels right, comfortable, and safe to you. The biggest consideration when leaving an abusive relationship is your safety and the safety of others. Some abusive people may threaten to hurt you or others you care about when you announce your intention to leave. If this is even a remote possibility, you will need to plan your leaving very carefully to ensure the safety of everyone involved. For help in planning, consider talking with a crisis counselor who has experience in helping people leave abusive situations. Marley knew she needed to leave her abusive husband. His alcoholic rages were becoming more frequent, and his abuse was becoming more violent. She was constantly afraid for her own safety and that of her 2 daughters, ages 6 and 8. Her husband threatened that if she left, he would keep her daughters and never let her see them again. Marley contacted her local crisis center and made arrangements to go there with her daughters when she was ready. She opened a checking account with a mailing address at the crisis center, making regular deposits of the money that was left after buying groceries. She took some clothing, personal items, and pictures, along with some of her daughter's clothes, to the crisis center before she actually left. She and her daughters left right after her husband went away on a business trip, when she knew he would be gone for several days, giving them several days to adjust. She immediately got a restraining order against her husband. She and her daughters hid out in the crisis center until she made arrangements to move out of the area. Things to arrange ahead of time if you need to leave an abusive relationship. Where will you stay for the short and long term? Options including renting a home, staying with friends or relatives, or staying at a safe house or crisis center. Arrange to have some money available. Depending on your circumstances, you may need to hide some money. Give it to a family member or friend for safekeeping, or open a checking account and arrange for mail to be sent to a post office box or other safe place. Get a credit card in your name, and again arrange for mail to be sent to a post office box or other safe place. What about your children? Can they leave when you do? Or do you need to seek help from the courts to terminate or limit your ex-partner's access to the children? What about your pets? If you can't keep them and you're sure they're unsafe with your partner, can you find another home for them or arrange temporary housing for them? Personal belongings. If removing all of them will be difficult, can you remove just the items that are important to you ahead of time? Personal support. Do you have friends, family members, healthcare professionals, or crisis workers who will help and support you through this time? Do you need to let the authorities know that you or others are at risk? Do you need to get a restraining order against your partner? Getting your abuser to leave your home may be a very daunting task that may put you and others at risk. You may have to sacrifice your home or use legal means to keep control of your property. If you are thinking of leaving an abusive relationship, describe the preparations you need to make before leaving. There's a place to write that out. All right, we got another page and a half. Thank you for staying with me. Avoiding abusive relationships. When you first become involved in a relationship, you see the world and your new lover through rose-colored glasses. At first, you think the two of you are perfect for each other. Sometimes abuse doesn't become apparent until you've been together for quite a while. By that time, you may have made a major commitment to each other that is hard to break, such as getting married or having a child together. Your lives may have become intertwined. You live together and share activities, responsibilities, family, and friends. How can you avoid getting into relationships that turn sour down the road and become difficult to end? Consider the following possible answers to that question. Would taking these actions have kept you from getting into an abusive relationship in the past? Here's our list. Taking time to get to know each other well before becoming sexual, or making any kind of permanent commitment, such as living together or having a child. Observing how this person treats their children, other family members, and friends. Watching for early signs that the potential partner might be manipulative, domineering, aggressive, or intimidating. Learning about the person's relationship history. Has he or she ever been served with a restraining order or been accused of stalking? Having your own interests and resources so you are not dependent on a relationship for your survival. Building your own self-esteem and self-confidence so you don't need another person's approval to feel good about yourself. What actions could you take to avoid getting into abusive relationships? There's a place to write that down. All right, here's the good stuff. Being abusive yourself. Having a history of being abused is an explanation for being abusive to others. Whoa. Having a history of being abused is an explanation for being abusive to others, but it is not an excuse. If you know that you manipulate, intimidate, dominate, are aggressive, or have behavior patterns that are damaging to others, you need to take corrective action right away. You can begin by seeing a counselor and asking for help. If you don't have one, call a local mental health agency and get a referral. If cost is an issue, ask about low cost or free options or things on sliding scales based on your income. Either before you see the counselor or with the counselor, make a very accurate assessment of your abusive behaviors. Being honest with yourself in this regard is essential. Becoming aware of your own abusive behaviors and writing them down is an important first step in resolving this issue. Please list your abusive behaviors below. The space is provided. You will now need to work intensively on avoiding these behaviors. It helps if you have people in your life you can talk to about your problem and what you're doing about it, and whom you can talk to when you need support and courage to go on. Let the person or people you have been abusing know that you are trying to stop. Tell them why you are doing it and ask for their help and support as you work to change. When you feel as though you are going to be abusive, try one of the following. Take a few deep breaths. Call and talk to a friend. Do something you enjoy. Get away from the person or people you were going to abuse. Sit alone quietly until the feeling passes. What are some other ideas that you have for avoiding abusive behavior? You may want to set up a system of rewards for yourself, giving yourself a bonus after you have avoided certain behaviors, or a predetermined length of time. Keep a daily journal of your progress in avoiding abusive behavior. Have a personal celebration when you need to affirm yourself and the important work you are doing. Okay, we're at the ending ritual. Describe something you are looking forward to that is happening soon. Remember, this part is important. Describe something you are looking forward to that will happen in the more distant future. And our optional activities, aka homework. For people who live with others, think about what your life would be like if you lived alone and did not have to consider another person's needs. Can you make some changes so your life is the way you want it to be without infringing on the rights of the person who live with? Who you live with? Okay, number 2. For people who live alone, think about what your life would be like if you lived with others. Are there any changes you could make to more closely match your ideal? For example, are there people or relationships you want to add to your life? How might you accomplish this? And the final one, make an art object that expresses your frustrations about relationships. All right, and the last thing, things to remember every day. I deserve to be treated well at all times. I treat others well. I can do what I need to do to keep myself and others safe. Okay, that has been topic 21, abuse and relationships, from my papers from Healing the Trauma of Abuse. Thank you for letting me read to you. I appreciate you.